In Berlin.
I would either go for a run or spend an hour trying to learn German.
I try to venture into the other neighborhoods. I somehow always end up back in the Mower Park flea market.
I bike around to different places in the city and then go to class at 1 p.m.
Berlin embodies a lot of the things San Francisco strives for, especially in regards to finding your niche.
Everyone's doing their own thing, and people are very laid back. They're living their lives in a very meaningful way.
People have the time and take the time to make mistakes, to experiment, but at the same time they have a goal.
This is the old world. It has a much longer history than San Francisco. But more importantly, I think for our students, it's a shift in their education. We have 120 sophomores here in Berlin. We have 4 colleges in arts and sciences and a business college. Students can take classes ranging from arts and society to computational and mathematical modeling. In Berlin, they're starting to explore their own deep topic they thought they wanted to study.
We're trying to bridge curriculum and the city. We try to get students immersed in experiential learning. We're facing students with reality versus the models that they are learning. We want to build that bridge from where they are to the next place.
So it was a very different chemical composition.
First year cornerstone courses at Minerva really gave us a good foundation to understand deeper knowledge.
I can sense that I think differently. What Minerva's changed the most is my own definition of success. I'm more willing to take a stab at things and be open to the possibility that I might fail.
I've always been a rebel. I've always wanted to do something that was different. Minerva definitely opens up the possibilities. I start thinking more about what I really want instead of just following the path that other people follow. There's something very special about Minerva students. They're not just smart, they're very curious about the world.
They are really confident in who they are and what their quirks are, and excited about what their futures hold. To see people encouraging each other to be more of that is really powerful.
So we made some really good dishes that you guys I think are going to enjoy very much. I spent 2 hours on the salad, just letting you know.
In Berlin, you're able to build towards a more important challenge. This is the place where the energy comes from that allows them to explore and push their boundaries.
There are infinite directions that you can create.
I can't imagine what it'll be like when I'm in Seoul or when I'm in London. There's so much in the world to do and so much thing to see.
Hello, my name is John Lee. Currently, I'm a student at EU High School. I think you know. I skipped today's class just to see you here and listen to your speech. But unfortunately, on the other side of myself, I felt kind of frustrated while listening to your speech. Because not all the students get the chance to experience Minerva-style education. And I just want to ask that what kind of problem that in education, and can it also be the solution to end the highly competitive society of Korean education? I understand. I hope you understand my question and look forward to discuss it together. Thank you.
Yeah, look, it's an excellent point, and I'll address it in 2 separate ways. First and foremost, about just the practical nature of the admissions process. One of the things which was crucial for when we set up the institution of Minerva is that we approached admissions in a very different perspective. And so admissions to practically every single other highly selective university in the world is exactly as you've described. You have to compete with all of these other people trying to look better than them on a comparative basis. We do not have that concept at Minerva. Minerva has no concept of spots in the class. We in fact accept 100% of qualified students. And we have no balancing of any kind. So we don't have a quota for men versus women. We don't have a quota for Americans versus Koreans. We don't have a quota for rich versus poor, etc. And so what happens, because we admit purely based on merit, is that the Minerva student body is by far the most diverse student body in the world. Less than 20% of our students are from the United States, even though we're an American university. We have students that are far more representative of the socioeconomic distribution in the world than any other elite university in America, primarily because universities in the United States discriminate, even though they claim they don't. Statistically, you can prove that they do. And so when you think about the entry process, application process into Minerva, you are evaluated purely against absolute standards. Now, the standards are extremely high, but you are not at a disadvantage or an advantage from when of competing with particular students from your school. So as an example, I think 2 years ago, there was one school in China where we admitted 6 students from that one school the same year when we admitted 1 student from all of Greater Beijing, right? And so it has nothing to do with anything except the merit of the individual. Now, that is still can't solve all of the problems of global higher education. But what Minerva is meant to do as an institution, more importantly than educating students directly, is to demonstrate to every other university that their educational process is just unacceptable. It is not acceptable for the world's great universities to have such lower outcomes than a brand new institution. It doesn't make any sense. And so we exist first and foremost to inspire other institutions to reform. And my bet is that in societies like Korea, you're going to have that reform happen much faster than in societies that are less focused on education. I think the culture of education in Korea is so strong. And I think one of the reasons why we chose Seoul as one of the cities that we're visiting, or that we're resident in, is that I think our entire model and the results speak for themselves and will be adapted in places like Korea much faster than in some other countries in the world.
Thank you very much. Any other question?
대단히 감사합니다. 한국 사람들이 이 영어 듣는 게 힘드니까 이번에는 한국말로 해서 저 사람이 좀 어렵게 질문을 하려고 합니다. 특히 우리 한국의 경우도 새로운 무슨 아이템을 정말 고등교육이 됐든 K-12 교육이 됐든 그런 걸 하기 위해서 노력들을 하는 분들이 꽤 많은데 그게 법 제도나 이런 그 시스템적으로 안 되는 경우가 꽤 많거든요. 그래서 질문은 미네르바 대학을 그렇게 성공적으로 이끌기 위해서 어떤 거를 어떻게 넘었는지 그런 거에 대한 어떤 인사이트를 주신다면 대단히 감사하겠습니다. 저는 방송통신대학교에서 온 손진곤입니다.
Wonderful. Yes, that's actually I didn't talk about that at all, but it's a great question. The secret to Minerva's success is not that we just created a better educational system, on the one hand. We created a better service, better product. But actually, on the other hand, we also played the game. We did what every other university does, and we did it better. And so, as an example, in the United States, to be an accredited degree, to actually offer an accredited 4-year degree, you have to offer 120 credit units worth of time. There's a seat time requirement. Now, we as a new institution, a new program could say, oh, 120 doesn't make sense. It should be 108. It should be 150. It should be 87. But we didn't fight those fights because it doesn't matter. 120 is a container. And you say, okay, well, you want me to be 120 credit units? I'll be 120 credit units. And I'll fit within that concept, right? A lot of the prestige that comes from American universities comes from the acceptance rate, which is kind of a silly concept and all the rest. And so we had to make sure that we got a lot of applicants from all over the world. So as an example, from in our third class that is just starting in San Francisco this week, we received, for a third class ever, 20,400 applicants from 179 different countries. So that means that we received, for a third class, more applications than Dartmouth, which is a 250-year-old Ivy League university, or MIT this year. Right? And we accepted less than 2% of those individuals. Right? We are the most selective university in the United States. Now again, we accept all qualified applicants, right? 100%. But we have so much demand, so much interest, that we are able to maintain very, very high standards, right? And make sure that the ones we select are befitting of that perspective. And so we play the same game that other universities do, and we make sure that when we offer our degrees, they're the same number of credit hours, you can do the same majors, or it's a Bachelor of Art or a Bachelor of Science, depending on what you major in. It's 4 years, it's accredited. We're part of the Claremont system, where Pomona and Claremont McKenna and Harvey Mudd are. And so we have all of the basics that make sure that we look and are as legitimate as any other institution. And then we have the curriculum and the pedagogy to ensure that we do a better job. And so the problem with most educational reforms movements in the past is that they rejected the system. And then they jumped up and down and said, look at me, I'm outside the system, bring the system down. And we don't do that. We say, we think the system should survive, we think it should thrive, and we will show you how you can change inside the system. Looks exactly the same, but have much better outcomes. And that's I think, why we hope that this reform movement will be successful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Is not giving students the ability to apply what they've learned. Useful ways of teaching useful knowledge, practical knowledge, is to actually allow students to apply in real-world situations. We approach education through a system that we refer to as fully active learning. You foreground the habit or concept as opposed to the subject. How do you teach generalizable practical knowledge? Well, the answer is very straightforward.